Hi business owners, it's Claire from Claire Wright, and today we're talking about failures. Are you held back by the thought of getting it wrong, of doing the wrong thing, looking like not knowing what you're doing, or failing? Because failing can be good for business. There are so many things we want to avoid in business: trolls, refund requests, hiccups in your email sequence, spelling errors, being contradicted on the advice you've given it in a public space, broken links on websites, just to name a few. But all of these failures could actually be good for your business. Now, we're often told to celebrate the good, but that philosophy is one sided. We're only focusing on what works. It kind of encourages you to overlook or to ignore the failures, the bad things we haven't done, or the actions we haven't taken, or the tasks we haven't completed, the goals we haven't achieved. But these things are all clues, insights. They actually represent progress, and they're all useful pieces of information about what's going on, both externally and internally. Now, yes, I can see if we allow it to, this reviewing what we haven't done and what hasn't worked could cycle into a doom and despair. But that's what we want to avoid. That's the bad we want to avoid. We don't want the blame, we don't need the criticism, and we certainly can leave the judgment at the door. That's the thing we need to forget. But the list of things we haven't achieved is actually useful. And I'm going to go as far as saying paying attention to it is actually essential. Because if we just gloss over what we haven't done, what we end up doing is setting our next round of goals or writing our next task list without learning the lesson. We need to figure out why things didn't get done, why the goal wasn't achieved, because without these insights, we are no more likely to get it done this time around than the last time we set that goal or that task. So what is it that those failures, those avoidances could be trying to tell us? So there's a really simple one that comes up straight away. Did we underestimate how long it would take or how much time we had available? Particularly when it comes to trying something new. We really have not very good information on how long something's going to take. We may have external expectations or requirements on our time, family, life, keeping the house running. So if we thought something was going to take an hour because we've never done it before, but then it ends up taking 3, that might be a reason it didn't get achieved. And we need to learn the lesson that it's actually going to take 3 hours, so we don't try and do that in an hour again. Maybe it's trying to tell us there's some steps we need to do first before we can achieve that goal or before we can get that task done. So we may think, I'm going to release a new freebie. But there's not just the freebie that's part of what we need to do. We need to host that freebie somewhere, have it uploaded in a public place where people can download it. We might want to put an email sequence with that. What do we need to get into place for an email sequence? Well, do we have an email provider? Do we have the emails we need? Do we have the images to go with it? There's lots of steps, even in just what can seem like a simple task. So if we don't learn the lesson of what those steps are, whether for a task or for a goal, then we're not going to get any further next time. Maybe what the avoidance is trying to tell us is that actually, really deep down, we don't want to do that thing. It's not necessarily part of the dream we have. We want this dream business and we have to do this marketing in a particular way. But if that's not aligned to us, it's not going to work. We're going to avoid it because it's uncomfortable. And there's uncomfortable outside your comfort zone. And then there's uncomfortable, it's just not you. So the other thing we need to check is that action or that goal aligned to who we are as a person, to our values, to our strengths, to our dreams and purpose? Thinking about that can actually sometimes just take things off the list because they're not going to work for you if they're not aligned to you. Now, I'm not at all suggesting you shouldn't celebrate your achievements, but what I'm saying is you should also celebrate your failures because you can learn so many lessons, get so many insights from both. Celebrate both failures and successes. And you don't have to judge yourself or beat yourself up. You can just skip that step altogether because it's not serving you. So use the information instead with curiosity to discover how to make it better in future. So when we talk about when things are working, we can analyze, assess, review that as well to figure out why is it working? What makes it work and how can we do more of that? Because that's going to give us more successes building on what works already. When it doesn't work, rather than ignoring it, we can figure out why so we can do less of that or we can do it differently. How are you going to improve your chances of it working next time? What can you stop doing? What can you avoid doing? What's not part of your process? And when I do this, it's important to assess the aspects of each. So maybe you ran a webinar and it didn't create any client conversions. We don't just want to write off the whole webinar because it may be an aspect in there that didn't work. So what we need to do is tweak the aspect. We don't necessarily throw the whole concept of running a webinar out of the window. Maybe it's the title, maybe it's how much marketing you did, maybe it was the time or the day, maybe it was the presentation itself, maybe it just didn't bring in the right clients. Looking at the different aspects can help us to see that not everything was a failure, just the outcome didn't come through. So when we do that, we know what doesn't work. What we're actually doing is getting ourselves one step closer to knowing what does work. It's really important to know what doesn't work for your business. This is why failing is good for business. It shows progress, and to be honest, trying is never failing. You're never going to be perfect. You have to accept that. You're never going to be absolutely right. And you don't have a crystal ball to see exactly what's going to work before you try it. All of this, pretty much all of business, especially in the first stages of making things, delivering services, figuring out what works, it's all pretty much experimentation. So the secret to it is, I think, owning your path, accepting failure, and getting it wrong are part of progress. And then, as we've said, learn the lessons from both your successes and your failures. So what failure could you celebrate this week? And importantly, what can you learn from it? If this video has been useful, I would love you to give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what you need to work on for your failures. You can subscribe for more content like this on business, confidence, and getting your actions sorted. And if you need my help working through any of this, celebrating your failures, I'm happy to help you celebrate your failures. Then reach out for a free chat.